6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey everybody, welcome back to ACG and another episode of Tea Time. I am your hostess with the mostest, Killer Queen.
And I'm Smooth.
There we go, got the broski today. Dude, we have such a great episode planned for you guys, and I would like to say many more to come. It is October, and you know we love a little spookiness. So we are going to be doing many episodes on different types of folklore and legends that are all a little bit spooky for the whole month of October. And as you see, today's episode, all about the Mothman. If you don't know what that is, obviously we're going to introduce you to it. And yeah, it's going to be really fun. I know Smooth is doing his stuff right now, setting up, so I'm just going to give a quick rundown. I have a lot of information to try and get through today. There's going to be, I should say disclaimer right away, all these things, they're not a factual thing. Some stuff is factual, like certain statements that were given and whatnot, but I'm not going to go into that. I'm just saying that a lot of this is based on opinions, so I don't want people to be like, we heard it on Tea Time and it's a fact. I don't know if it's a fact, but it's definitely an opinion, and I have one, and everyone that knows me knows I'm not afraid to discuss it. So, Mothman, let's get into it. Based on, for a lot of people who don't know what Mothman is, it's like this fabled creature that people, we're not sure whether it's like here to pre-warn us of certain, you know, impending doom, or if it is in fact bringing the impending doom, but there's a lot of discussion on it. So it's from, like, it originated in West Virginia. I know that. And it was like mostly seen in and around the area of Point Pleasant. This is during the time period of like between, now there's like some talk and discussion about when exactly the date was, but I would say between November 12th and November 15th of 1966. There started to be sightings. Initially, there were like grave diggers who were working at night, digging their grave, not their grave, but the grave they're supposed to dig. And they happened to see like something brownish in color and massive in size flying over them. And obviously they were petrified. And then, you know, a few days later, there were other sightings from different people. An elderly gentleman said that he had come out into his backyard after his dog was barking and like kind of like howling, and so he went to the backyard to look and had seen like a cluster of red lights in the sky that he couldn't make sense of, that his TV started acting crazy, there was static and whatnot. And all this information I'm getting, by the way, folks, I've gotten from different sources of like documentaries on YouTube, documentaries on History Channel, different, like just all sorts of different sources. It's not just one area, it's tons of things. So that's why a lot of the stuff we're going to discuss is kind of like, it's touch and go. Like you might be like, no, it didn't happen on this exact date. I'm aware. It could be around any sort of date that I'm giving. So just bear with me on my information. So he saw it, the dog, the lights, then his TV started acting funny, then the TV kind of exploded. And so he was like, oh my God. That was really bad. The biggest selling point that really pushed off the story of Mothman was about two teen couples in a car. They're driving. They see what looks like a man in the middle of the road. And he's like, they said that the figure they seen was between like 6 and 7 feet, easily, very large, very muscular, but you know, not huge. Like it's slim but muscular, dark in color, with like very red, hypnotizing eyes. Hypnotizing in the way that they described it is that they couldn't get a really good look at whatever its face was or details of the face because the eyes were almost hypnotizing them. And a massive wingspan of like 7 to 10 feet easily. So obviously they were terrified that this was happening, and the thing just like starts taking off, and they were like, hell no. They took off down the road racing like crazy, and this thing started following them, flying over top of their car, following them down the highway. And they said that the wingspan was easily far enough that they could see each tips of the wings on either side of the car. That at one point it was flying beside them, that if they had rolled down the window, they could have reached out and touched it. They were obviously in a panic state, freaking out, telling the driver to drive faster. They're teenagers, and this is going back in like the late 60s. Like, yeah, I would be very scared. There's nothing like that. So anyways, they tried to take a quick corner, and obviously the thing just was able to turn very quickly. There was no like hesitation. It was like right on top of them. It ends up landing on the shield, like the hood of the car. The shield. Yeah, the hood of the car, and like staring them in the face, and they were all just like stunned. They didn't know what to do because it was so big and so strong that they thought for sure it could kick in the windshield of the car. It eventually just flew off, and they were like, nope. That's what started it. They went straight to the police, told the police their stories. Of course, the police are like, this is crazy. Like, we can't believe this. They've never heard anything like that before. But then when they published the story, the first publication was November 16th. So literally the next day, the news reporters had this story, and they printed it in Point Pleasant Registered. And it was titled, Couples See Man-Sized Bird, ... creature, ... something.
Because they
So
didn't
that's a direct
know.
quote.
They didn't know what it was. They were just throwing out
No.
anything just to hope that.
That's right.
Dang, that's crazy. Shout out to Lethal, by the way. Lethal in the live chat
Hey.
says, "I'm loving your creepy makeup."
Yeah, it was pretty insane. So they posted that, and then of course, all sorts of stories started coming in. Like all sorts of stories started coming in about what this could be and why it's here. So I dug around and got some research, and there was a gentleman by the name of Robert L. Smith. He was from West Virginia University, and he told reporters he believed that it fit the description of a sandhill crane. That, for anyone who doesn't know, is a large American crane, almost as tall as a man, with, a 7-foot wingspan and reddish coloring around its eyes. So that would give like the effect of having red eyes. And that it could have easily wandered away from its migration route and would not be recognized because it's not native to the region. So that's another belief system, for anyone who wants to try and make some sense of it. It is an option, like that is possible, but I think that there's a big difference between almost the size of a man and like 7 foot tall.
Well,
For me, I think...
And you're also saying that something that size is in an area that's not native to the region. That's like the movie Lake Placid. Yeah, okay, an alligator could have got that far, but what are the odds? What are the odds?
Exactly.
Right? Like, okay, so that right there tells me that that's not what it was, but the fact that he's describing that it was that freaking big, it's like, what else could it be? It's not, if it's not that, okay, now we have a problem here, because there's something that's huge that the natives have never seen before, and now we're getting multiple sightings. Okay, so how many sightings in 1967 were there, or is it like just a bunch all came in the same time, or was it like a couple a year every year for a few years?
Well, it was a bunch leading up until like I didn't write down the date because I was slacking, but there was something about a bridge crash. I think it's like called the Silver Bridge, and it didn't crash. It crumbled, like it fell apart in Pleasant Point. It was a massive situation. Just give me a second. I have some info. I jotted down notes here. Continuous sightings occurred leading up until the collapse of the Silver Bridge in Pleasant Point. That collapse caused the unaliving of 46 people. It was huge for that area. They had never experienced anything like that, and I don't think they've really experienced much like that again since that. And then people started connecting Mothman to that collapse. there's a picture, actually, I don't have, but you can Google this or YouTube it. There is a picture that shows, it's grainy, obviously, this is the 60s. It shows a picture of what they depict as Mothman on top of the bridge moments before the bridge collapsed. And this was obviously during, hey, Ken! Sorry, I just seen him jump into the chat. This was moments before the bridge collapsed. It was during rush hour, so there were tons of vehicles on it. It was very devastating. So, of course, you can argue the fact that maybe it was just too old. Maybe the weight of all the cars was too much. But if this is something that's happened frequent, like the cars on rush hour frequently and never showed any sort of like cracking or, anything in the foundation of the bridge, then why would it just suddenly crash on its own? Like, that just doesn't make any sense to me personally. So, that's what started. Yeah, go ahead.
So, I think that I don't think it's a coincidence that all of these sightings were not only, rumor mill, but were actually documented police reports. I'm looking at them right now, and even myself, I am absolutely shocked right now because I don't want to ruin it. I'll transition into why I'm so shocked, but what I will tell you is this. I think that it would be very disingenuous for us to say that these people who are, this is West Virginia. This is a very, very small town. What's up, LLYSWN? How are you? Welcome to the chat. I think that that because it's a very small town in West Virginia, everybody knows everybody. These people, if they're actually seeing these things, it's only going to take one or two people in the town that are credible to actually report this. And then you go from a regular rumor to now these town folk are actually scared. And I want you guys who are listening to this for a second to actually imagine. Maybe you're in a big city, maybe you know what it's like to live in a small town, but just imagine for a second that people that you actually trust and care about are looking you in the face and telling you with a look of pure horror that they actually saw something that they actually believe is a monster or an alien or some type of deformed creature, and they are visibly scared. If my brother-in-law came through the door right now and looked like he saw a ghost and said, "You're never gonna believe what I just saw," I would believe him because he doesn't lie about these things on the regular. So my point is I think that it's pretty messed up to say that these people that have already been haunted by this thing in the sky at night, right? All of a sudden, 40 or 50 people from my small hometown all are passed away because of a freak bridge accident. I don't think that these people in this small town would run the risk of being that disingenuous or being that type of a bad person to say, hey, all these people that I grew up with just passed away, and guess what? The Mothman did it. I don't think they would do that. I think that they would want retribution. I think that they would want some type of something for their family and for the families, and I don't think that if they didn't actually see him there, that they would say it was the Mothman. That is so messed up. That's like your family passing away in the Twin Towers in 9/11, and without even actually investigating the incident, you just chalk it up to terrorism. Like, you can't do that. You have to actually investigate it if that's somebody that you love and care about. So I'm just saying, I don't think that the Mothman being there was just a rumor. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree. And some fun information. I was going to say fun facts, but I don't know if they're facts. But it was so bad, the fear of what was going on within Pleasant Point. I watched some more documentaries quickly on YouTube before I jumped in. They had children staying inside for lunches and recesses because the way that Mothman was described, they thought that it could just come swoop down and snatch somebody, like any of these kids, right up off the playground. And they were afraid that could happen. And so they started keeping kids inside the school instead of letting them play outside out of fear. That is some serious fear basing.
Wow.
And it's not just like, I know people like to say, especially when it comes to things like fabled things or anything extraterrestrial, they're like, oh look, they're just a bunch of rednecks. It's not rednecks. These were lawyers, they were businessmen, they were like well-known people within the community that have really great standing, that were agreeing and documenting and giving their reports on what they themselves were witnessing and seeing. It was not just, you know, a few rednecks in a small town. Like it was very vast. So I have more fun stuff. Get ready. Because there's so much to discuss and so little.
Let's go.
On top of Pleasant Point, this Mothman has been connected to many natural disasters, like not natural, but many disasters that have also happened. So one of these events was in 1978 in Germany. There was a group of miners that were doing their jobs. They're in the mines, working like normal. They look and see this Mothman figure behind them in the mine. And of course, they're terrified. So they all run for the front of the mine to get out as soon as possible. Because they agree. They described it the same way. Like very tall, very slender, but extremely muscular, big wings, red eyes. Always the number one thing is these red glowing eyes. And within minutes of them running out of this mine, the mine collapsed behind them.
What?
Yeah.
What?
So, and that was in Germany. And again, this is during times like in the 60s and 70s when communications between like the United States and Germany probably weren't great.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like these groups of miners are getting information from there that they could like try and discuss, you know what I mean? Or tip people off to like make some sort of fake encounter. So within moments after these miners leaving, the mine collapsed. Again, was Mothman pre-warning them that some disaster was about to happen? Or was he bringing the disaster? And again, they just narrowly escaped. That's a big topic.
I'm not... Oh my god, this is so freaky because it really makes you wonder, okay? Now, again, I don't want to take your viewers, because we have more and more people coming in here, I don't want to take them down a weird rabbit hole that leads to nowhere, but what I will say is this, okay? Imagine just for a second, because a couple of the different theories that I read was that, you know, it, like you said actually to me before the podcast, you said, wouldn't it be funny if it was actually some type of like alien or whatever, right? Now imagine it actually is some type of extraterrestrial creature and they just can't speak English. They can't speak. Like they're flapping their wings. Get out of there! And then like they're like, you know, they're trying to, but like I don't know, bro. Like, okay, it is a very big coincidence, I would say, that every single time something bad happens, it's around. Yeah. And one of the other things that I'm looking at here from one of the eyewitness accounts was that one of the people said, actually multiple people said that as they seen this thing, they had this weird, eerie, bad feeling. They couldn't describe it.
They're super uncomfortable, like hair on their neck rising, goosebumps. Yeah.
Yes. So the question you have to ask yourself, because if you've ever like read anything about moths, supposedly they have like kind of like bats or whatever, they give off like this like that weird noise that like almost human ears can't pick it up, right? But what if that's actually the Mothman trying to warn them, and that's what's giving them that weird feeling in their stomach? It's like it can't communicate with words. Maybe it's communicating with feelings. That's just a thought.
Cool theory, by the way. Like super cool theory.
Just a
thought. Okay, so another thing on top of the miners.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. In 1986, again, Mothman was seen right before the chemical disaster at Chernobyl. That was another huge deal. I don't know if everyone knows what Chernobyl is, but
you're saying outside of the U.S.?
Yeah, outside the U.S. So we've already went U.S. in Pleasant Point. Then the miners were in Germany. And
Oh,
now
I thought you meant
Chernobyl,
German
I think,
miners
is
in
a
the
part
U.S.
of.
I'm sorry. Okay, so
No.
what?
No, they're in Germany. And Chernobyl, I believe, was a part of the USSR. So that was when like the UK and Russia and everything were all together. I believe. Don't quote me, but
Dude, you just
I'm
took this
pretty.
thing a completely different way. Like outside the U.S., bro.
Yeah, it's not just one. This is like worldly scene. So it was seen right before Chernobyl happened, and that was so huge. For anyone who doesn't know about Chernobyl, it was like this radioactive, like radiate, like it's a big plant that works with chemicals, and there was a huge spill. And like even to this day, you can't live in Chernobyl because there was so much
Nuclear
radiation
radiation.
within the water, the ground, the trees, the air. You can't live there. You can't even enter the area without extreme hazmat suits. Like it's very toxic. Nobody can be there. It was absolutely devastating. The death toll is uncountable because it wasn't just the actual like spill that killed so many people, but the effects of it later just carried on, like the cancers that were done, and just even still to this day, not just in humans, but the wildlife was affected. All the plantation is affected. There was massive, like, just horrible things, animals with two heads and just all sorts of like crazy stuff happening. So again, another like catastrophic event that happened that Mothman was seen around. And the last one I'm really going to bring up, although there is many more, the last one that I'm going to bring up is going to blow your mind. Mothman was also spotted around the smoke and debris around the Twin Towers when the attacks happened and the Twin Towers came down. So
Coincidence?
I think that's insane. Like what a massive, that again, another absolutely historically catastrophic. These are not just small events, you know what I mean? Like, not to say that any event is bad, you know what I mean? Like, but the weakest of them all was probably the bridge crash, and then it just got worse and worse and worse as time continues. So to know that people had spotted this during, and I don't think that people are going delusional in those times when they see things like that stuff burns into your memory. It's trauma that just burns into your memory, and you can't forget that kind of stuff. Trust me. So how crazy is that at the Twin Towers at that? Like, well, that blows my mind.
I'm glad you brought up all of these big staples in history, right? Like all these natural disasters, not even just natural disasters, but just disasters in general. Now that you've brought notoriety to the Mothman and some of the things that people have been contributing, him being around, let's bring some credibility to this, okay? I want to talk about some of the notable witness encounters. I'm going to read out some of these notable witness encounters, and I'm going to start with 1966, which is exactly where Queen put this, starting at, okay? And again, I said earlier that some of these are going to blow your mind, okay? Because I don't know about you guys, but I hold police officers or just officers in general to a higher standard. I do believe that our men and women in blue and our men and women in green that serve our military and serve our communities, I believe that they should be held to a higher standard. And if that they're lying on oath or they're lying in general in witness statements, I don't believe it. I'm sorry, but I don't. There's always going to be a couple that, yes, they're crazy, right? So some people, they fly under the radar. But for the most part, I would say that if they're not trying to cover their asses, they're being truthful, okay? And I don't think that there's any reason in the world why a police officer or a man or woman in uniform would ruin their own credibility and respect by lying. So let's go ahead and get started. Roger and Linda Scarberry. November 12th, 1966. You touched on this. While they were driving near an abandoned TNT factory, they spotted a large figure with glowing red eyes. It chased their car at speeds up to 100 miles an hour. They reported this. This was not a rumor. Okay, this was an actual police report. All right. The second police report, Steve and Mary Millette, November 12th, 1966. So the first one was November 12th. This is another November 12th. This is the same night not in the same location. Okay, the same night.
Yeah.
This gives credible credence to this story. Multiple eyewitnesses in different locations that did not know each other. They did not know each other. Okay? Steve and Mary. So you got 2 more people right here. This is approximately 5 witnesses in one night in 1966. This couple also reported seeing a Mothman the same night as the Scarberries. They described a creature had large wings and glowing red eyes. Now you have to ask yourself, how is it that if these were the first 2 reports from West Virginia ever, it's not like this was a rumor that was going around town for a couple months. This is not like a movie that came out and got everybody excited in their feelings. No. 2 different groups of people, 2 different locations gave the same exact eyewitness account about what it looks like. Now, here's where things get very, very creepy. Okay? Just 4 days later. Now, you got to imagine, this is a small West Virginia. If one police station gets credible witness accounts from multiple locations saying that there's a creature in the sky with glowing red eyes, you bet your ass that every police station within a 5-mile radius or 5-county radius is going crazy. They're calling each other. They're going, "Do you guys hear this? You guys hear what? Are you guys okay?" A deputy sheriff, Millard Halstead, 4 days later, seen it himself. He responded to reports of Halstead claiming to have seen a large winged figure near the TNT area, so he went out to investigate, and he observed it taking off into the air, noting as well glowing red eyes in the distinct shape. So you're talking, are you seriously telling me that in 1 week you had 5 regular people from 2 different locations all reporting the same thing, and then a police officer, a deputy sheriff, goes out to investigate and also sees the same thing and reports that? Bro, I am mind blown. Literally. Like you cannot tell me that's a lie. That is not a lie or a rumor. It was verified. Okay? That's creepy as shit.
That's creepy. You want to hear something else creepy?
Yeah.
Another thing I just watched on one of these quick YouTube documentaries before I jumped in. So one of the people said, well, multiple people had said that after discussing Mothman, they were visited by the so-called Men in Black.
What?
Yeah. I know. To discuss this, they also said that the so-called Men in Black were men obviously dressed head to toe in black, but that they... Oh, I'm getting goosebumps. Look at that. I can't even make it up. They said that these men were also very pale in skin color. They really recognized that they were very pale in skin color because the black clothing stood out really quickly against their skin, but that they were visited by Men in Black about discussing the Mothman. So, I have a theory that I'm going to discuss because I think that we could talk about this for a few minutes here. Theory is, I'm not sure if anybody has seen the movie The Fourth Kind, but a quick recap of that is that it's obviously a movie about alien encounters and whatnot. So, in the movie, they're discussing how when these people are encountered by these extraterrestrials, that they don't actually see aliens because that would be way too traumatizing, that the human brain just can't really acknowledge it for a lot of people, and they go into like super hysteria. To avoid that, these aliens are telepathically placing like an owl. They make themselves appear like an owl in the window. I'm assuming probably because owls have very like almond slanted eyes, the same way that these little gray guys obviously also have, or are more commonly described. So I'm thinking maybe Mothman is something extraterrestrial, and that they're just telepathically making us see this moth or bird-like creature because they see so much of that within our planet. Hey, Bobby, welcome.
Welcome, Bobby.
That maybe that's what they're putting in our minds, that we're not necessarily seeing that, because they're saying that it's very humanoid, very humanoid in nature, and you know, our brains may not be able to compute what we're seeing, so they're telepathically just placing something that seems like it's a safer version that we're not going to completely lose our minds about, and that's why. Which would tie in what I said earlier with the man who saw the red lights in the sky and couldn't describe it. And then also how we're discussing these men in black showing up at people's doors, but they have very pale skin. Like, I don't know, but for me, I'm feeling maybe a little extraterrestrial in nature for something to do with Mothman.
Well,
that's my theory.
First of all, I'm glad you brought that up because I have something I want to go a little bit deeper on that. Second of all, I want to shout out to Jan. He says that he was just browsing YouTube and found us. Thank you so much for popping in. We really appreciate it. And if you want to hit that subscribe button so you get notified next time, we really appreciate it. We'd love to see you back. Thanks for coming in, my friend.
Absolutely.
So you want to liken this to the Men in Black. I mean, I think everybody around the world, not just America, can safely say they know exactly what the Men in Black is. And we're not just talking about the movie, right? We're talking about an actual government entity that is not known to be tied to any one actual faction of the government. It is supposedly an entity of people that do not technically exist. They do not technically have real lives or IDs or anything. They work endlessly and tirelessly for this ghost faction of the government. And what they do is they go out and quote unquote investigate paranormal activities, whether it be aliens or demons or whatever you want to call it, right? If this is
for one second?
Sure.
I just want to say, also, wasn't the CIA at one point one of these factions that was supposed to be like ghost-like, not existed?
Yes.
Yeah, and then eventually it came out that like, oh, they actually do exist. So I'm just saying, I very much believe that this faction of Men in Black exists, in my opinion. Carry on.
Right. And yeah, and just for those of you who are going to say, oh, well, that's not technically true. Well, it is technically true. The CIA was supposed to be a government entity that was into itself, right?
Secret.
And the only reason that it became is widely known and as prominent as today is because it's the Central Intelligence Organization, because the president at the time decided that we needed a central location for all of the intelligence that we needed to be based and shared with other government agencies. So if it had not been for the president at the time, yes, who knows where the CIA would be today. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. What I want to get to is, if the Men in Black are involved, that means at some level the government itself knows that this thing is real, right? They're not wasting tax dollars to go investigate, you know, some little girl who saw the boogeyman under her bed. That's not what was going on, okay? They made a movie about this because there was so many reports and so many people believed this that they had no choice, right? Otherwise, it would have been nonstop questions. So they figured they'd get ahead of it, make a movie about it. But what they did when
they... a book first.
Yes, a book. I'm sorry. They made a book first, and then it got turned into a movie.
A dude wrote the book. I think his name was Dan Fitzgerald, but I'm not 100%.
Right, and so there was a point in time where an investigative journalist named John Keel, he was documenting numerous sightings, including reports from locals who experienced strange lights in the sky and other paranormal occurrences, and he got so many reports about this that Keel started to investigate, and Keel's investigations led him to connect the Mothman to sightings like UFO reports and stuff. So this leads, and it's directly connected with this whole Men in Black thing. Now, what I want to say is this: if this thing is an alien or some type of creature that's not from this planet, right? That's one thing. But see, you brought up Chernobyl, nuclear incident, okay? What's to say that this thing is not a byproduct of what we've done to this planet?
That's true too.
You've got all of these nuclear plants blowing up all over the world. You've got all types of we dropped bombs on Japan. For all we know, this thing could have came from Japan, from Nagasaki and Hiroshima area. Bro, it easily could be a deformity. For God's sakes, we've made how many countless movies based off of...
I just got cozy goosebumps again.
Bro.
I'm not sure if y'all can see that, but like, yeah, especially because the wingspan is so big that crossing an ocean like that would be like nothing.
Easy.
Seabirds do that with less wingspan all the time. So this thing could just fly across and be like, oh, what's this? I didn't even think of that. Genius, Broski.
Bro, Spider-Man, I mean, all these movies where they're infected by something and they transform. Bro, I've seen the pictures of some of the deformities of some of those men, women, and children over there in Japan. Okay, and that's just from radiation. I've seen it.
And isn't it? It's devastating.
Dude.
It is absolutely devastating.
Yes.
Like, even just the Chernobyl thing, like back to Chernobyl, I've seen pictures of people in the hospital that literally were like melting until they died. They melted into their beds until they died. Like that, oh my God. I can't talk about it too much because it makes my heart hurt and then I will cry and mess up my makeup. But I'm just saying, that is heartbreaking. So you're right. Dropping bombs on, like they did on Japan, 100%. I think that's a great concept.
I want to bring up one more concept that I personally believe more than that. I don't know why, but with all of the investigating that I've done on Area 51, on Groom Lake, that whole area, is it really that far-fetched to believe that after all these years since the 1930s or 40s that one of our own government experiments couldn't have escaped?
Oh yeah.
Is that hard to believe? Like that hard to believe?
No, that's really good. Oh my God, all these amazing concepts and ideas and like theories coming forth. I love having these discussions with you. They're so much fun. Like, I think it's so great. And I love that our brains are always like going in different directions. Like, okay, this could be a possibility. How about this? How about that? Like, nothing's ruled out because we don't know. And it's definitely not mass hysteria. Like, I know that people like to bring it to that right away. It is not a mass hysteria, especially when it'd be different if this was just in one really large city, but because it's worldwide. This happened at a time when there was not communications between the US and like Germany, the US and like the USSR. Like, it was not a means for them to like align their stories, you know what I mean? And they wouldn't, like, it just wasn't done at that wasn't something that was done then, you know what I mean? People didn't tell fake stories for fame. Because there's too much at risk at that point. Everyone wants to call you crazy. No, like,
there was no
they
clout.
Wouldn't do that.
There was no clout back then. It's just not
how it was done back then. You know what I mean? That's a now thing. Everyone's looking for fame, not like in a rude way, but it's true. Everyone's looking for their ticket into famedom. But back then, appearances were everything. Even if you had the crappiest home life, you always kept like straight face. Look at how perfect my home life is. So if they're willing to come out of those like barriers and be like, oh my God, here's what I just seen. This is the proof that I have to back up what I've said. And they're willing to allow people to accuse them of being crazy and stuff, and they're still standing by their story. That some of these people receive death threats.
Oh my God. And really, honestly, depending on where you lived back in the 60s and 70s, let's just be very clear. If you were different, it was dangerous, okay? You were expected to be as normal as humanly possible. Go to church on Sundays, love your husband, love your wife, start a family. All this stuff that we see today for people doing the same things for clout, that would have got you killed or seriously injured back in the day, okay? So, but one more thing I want to touch on really quickly. You remember I was telling you about this guy named John Keel, right? He was an investigative journalist. Okay, his job literally, he was not a freelancer. This was his job, his career, okay? He actually put his career on the line for this story. If you guys followed the movie at all, you know exactly what I'm talking about. He put his career on the line. Yeah, there was a bunch of fictional stuff that they added in there about how his wife had passed.
Hollywood it up, right?
Yes, but he was an actual journalist. He did actually go to this town, and he stayed there. He refused to leave, and let me tell you why he refused to leave. Okay, when he went to the police station in Point Pleasant, they had already received all the calls. They had already sent officers to go and investigate. And you remember that officer that I was telling you about that went to go investigate it, and he actually saw it with his own eyes, came back and reported it? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there was a formal report that he himself was there. He notary, right? Like he put his initials on it, on the report, just to let him know that he was official journalist that was there, that actually was there when they had to call these police officers to be investigated by another police officer, like a detective, right? Because you have to do an internal investigation. Well, John Greer was there, and not only was he there taking notes during the investigation when the detective was asking the police officer, which is basically on oath, right? He cannot lie. And
that's right.
He was a witness, and he saw the facial expressions of these police officers as they were describing what they seen. He noted, it is right here, I'm looking at it in the report. His report included descriptions of the creature, and he noted the reaction of the other officers who had heard the accounts. Okay, so this guy is looking at all of his other officers in that department. And again, you have to think about the men and women serving the country and the state and the towns that they live in, right? They have to live and work with these people. Why would this officer, in a room filled with other officers who he's supposed to be credible around, lie to this investigator? And this guy is a journalist. It's his job to investigate these things. Don't you think he would notice if this officer was lying? If he was fake afraid or fake scared? He noted it in his notes how terrified these police officers were. And how terrified the other officers were in the room because they believed this man.
Yeah, because they're trained to know to look at certain features in your face or twitches that you have or ways that you adjust your eyes to know whether you're lying.
Yes.
And they built trust. Back then, it wasn't as corrupt in small town police, centrals and whatnot weren't as corrupt as big city places are now.
Mm-hmm.
They were there really very much was like a brotherhood. Everybody really was family to each other. So you're right. Why would they just sit there and be lying? They know they're not lying. That's why they were so terrified, because they're holy crap, this is terrifying.
Look,
I couldn't imagine.
I'm just saying, if me and you are officers, KQ, okay, you're my superior officer, I'm your deputy. Okay, you've been training me for the last 3 years to take your job when you get promoted. All right. All of a sudden, the chief of police says, "Hey, KQ, I need you to go on down to the TNT factory. We got reports of something flying in the sky." KQ, who has been nothing but truthful for the last 3 or 4 years, however many years, she goes to investigate and comes back white as a ghost, telling me she just saw something fly across the sky with 10-foot wingspan and glowing red eyes and made you want to throw up. You were so scared. And not only that, all of a sudden there's an internal investigation, and I'm listening to KQ sit there and tell this story, who I 100% believe is credible, and she's scared out of her mind. Bro, my knees are gonna give out. I'm going to I'm gonna be I have to go home now. I'm stuttering right now because I genuinely, if KQ told me this and she was serious, why wouldn't I believe her?
That's right.
And I do believe that a legit journalist whose job it is to know whether or not people are lying to them would know right away if they were actually scared or not. So the fact that a whole room full of police officers that are very credible were absolutely terrified at the way this person was telling this story, bro, I'm getting a little shook up right now. I'm about ready to close my windows.
Yeah, it's creepy. I mean, I know the first time that I watched the Mothman Prophecies, which is the movie that you were describing that was based off of the book that was written because of so many sightings of Mothman. That's how I was introduced to Mothman. Because I was a huge Richard Gere fan, and I loved anything spooky or scary movies. And when I seen that, I mean, that was life-changing. At that point, from then on out, I was like, this is a real thing. I know they Hollywood stuff up. They have to make it more interesting. But they were taking a lot of facts and putting it in that movie. So there is some Hollywooding, but there's a lot of facts. And it was terrifying. Like for me, I'm like, I don't even know what I would do. And I'm a tough girl. Like I will take on someone who's like 360 pounds, no problem. But you put a 7-foot, huge winged humanoid being with red eyes in front of me, nah man, this queen is hightailing it out of there ASAP. Like I know I would be leaving smoke like trail behind me because I'd be running so fast. Like, and I'm a big girl. I don't run for nothing. So if I'm running, you all should be running with me.
Damn straight.
That would just kill me. I'd be like, I'm too fat. I'm gonna die.
So funny.
That would be
you said
it.
If I'm running,
so, yeah.
y'all should be running with me.
Yes. Dude, I'm so glad that we were able to discuss this tonight. Like,
me too.
Big time. There's so much that we could talk about on it, and I feel like you and I, when we get together and we start talking about these spooky sort of things, we're both like enthusiasts, especially the month of October. I love everything spooky.
Yes.
I love Halloween. It's my favorite holiday. So, because I can see time is getting close to my ending. So I want to discuss what we're going to do for the rest of the month. I plan on bringing many more episodes of Tea Time. And I'm going to do, each episode will be like a different, like a fable or like some sort of like historical thing. I don't know. Things that are spooky, things that are Halloween related. If anybody in our Chat Mafia world has a suggestion, please drop it. Drop it to me. If anybody is interested on being an episode because they have a lot of knowledge on a certain thing, let us know. We are more than happy. We're excited to have you on and like talk about these things. We have lots to discuss. I don't want to tell you what the topics are because it would take away from the surprise, and this way you'll have to tune in so that you can find out what the next episode's going to be on. But I promise you, you are not going to want to miss it. It's going to be so much fun. Every episode, there's going to be so much discussion and theories and ideas and folklore. So even if you don't know something or you think you know everything, I'm sure there will be something new to learn because we are researching all of these things.
Yes. So
we could bring the most fun, the most facts, and just enjoy ourselves. Like Halloween time, baby, the whole month. So it's gonna be so spooky and fun. I'm so excited.
Yes, dude.
So it's gonna be really good, I think, anyways.
Well, let me just go ahead and say this, okay? I do a lot of things on this channel that I don't necessarily see as a great time, right? But that's the nature of the beast because I don't do this for myself. I do not do this for myself, guys. Like, are you kidding me? I barely have enough time to eat, sleep, and you know what? Okay, so
That's true.
that's the nature of the beast in this. This is a consumer thing. You guys are here to consume the product we're putting out, and we know what the people want. And so when KQ's decided, hey, look, we're gonna switch gears. We're gonna get away from just the gaming. We're gonna give a little something for everybody. And the fact that it is October and we still have 27 days, 28 days or something like that to go, we have so much time to be putting out great content for you guys in the likes of paranormal stuff, and this is something that I genuinely love to do. So I've not been this excited in a very, very long time. And KQ, thanks for the great suggestion. If you guys out there want to give us suggestions, get on into the ACG official Discord. Let us know. Maybe you guys can think of something that we missed, right? We do have a lot of great ideas to bring you, but if there is something, maybe there's something where you're from. Maybe you're from a different country where you guys have something that's similar to the Chupacabra or something like that, that we've never heard of. We want to know. Also, it would be great if Lethal, if you're out there listening somewhere in the Neverland, if we could have like a close encounters tab where people can leave their own close encounter experiences, whether it be UFOs, ghosts, maybe you were walking through the woods, you saw Bigfoot. We want to know. It doesn't mean you have to come on the show, but if you leave a genuine enough story with enough detail, I'll read it on the podcast. we'll talk about it.
Yeah, we're not judgmental, obviously. We love this stuff. We're not going to sit here and be like, there's no way this is true. Like, we're open. We're very open-minded individuals, especially when it comes to anything that is like the outer limits of what most people's realities are. We love this kind of stuff.
Yes.
So don't be scared. Don't be shy. Don't be afraid. We will not ridicule you at all. Like,
Yep.
we're about that.
We're in. 100%.
We're
We're
in
in.
it. I've got tons of spooky stories I could be telling people, like events that have happened throughout my life that creep me right out. Even stuff that's included me and Lethal, actually. So maybe I'll save that for a future episode. You'll have to watch to find out what happened with me and Lethal online once. It's legit. It really happened and terrified both of us. We were like, oh, a shared experience, man. That was it. I was like, oh no, I love you so much. Please don't leave me.
Can just really quick, can I challenge the both of us? I want to do a 3-minute story segment, okay? I'm going to start with you, then I'm going to go me. You have 3 minutes, I'm watching the clock, to tell me one experience that shook you to the core. You ready? Set, go.
Okay, so when I was young, my father passed away when I was 12 years old, and I always felt like I had gotten signs that he was around me. Shortly after he passed away, we moved to Manitoba, which is another province right beside the province that I live in Canada. While we were on the way there, in front of the hotel, I was at the hotel bed. There was a dresser at the end of the bed with a mirror, and I just happened to wake up out of a dead sleep and saw what looked like a white shadow figure walk in front of the mirror and then stop, turn, and look at me, and then leave. Yeah. I've had many situations, but in concerns to my dad, another time I was at my cousin's house, and we were talking about my father and laughing about different memories and stuff and how we think that he haunts me. And I'm like, if my dad was really here, he would give us a sign. A pan flew off the counter by itself across the room. Nobody was near it. It's not like we get in like earthquakes in our city. It just flew by itself off the counter.
What?
So I'm just saying, yeah, tons of stuff. That's just that's like the very tip of the iceberg. There's so much stuff I could tell you that would blow your mind, but I wouldn't have believed it if it had not happened in front of me. We also tried to walk into her mom's room, which was my dad's sister, and her mom's touch lamp kept going through the phases, like light, medium, dark, off, light, medium, dark, off, so fast that we were like, oh my God. And I stepped out of the room, and when I stepped out of the room, the light stopped. And I stepped back in the room, then it was the clock, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, hour switch, but like real fast.
Oh my God.
And I was like, oh my God. I stepped out of the room again, and it stopped. Telling you,
dude,
I'm a witch.
Oh my God. Okay.
That,
First of all, one question. First of all, awesome story. Second of all, one question before I tell you my story, because we're almost out of time. Okay. So you for sure saw the actual figure. You did not see a shadow. It was you saw features.
Okay, so it was a figure. It was like in the shape of a human, and it was like, it looked like it was filled with like white smoke. Okay. Is the best way to describe it.
Okay, but you could tell
it wasn't dark. It was like very light in color.
Okay, that's close enough for me. Yeah, no, I would be scared too. Okay.
Yeah, it was terrifying. I was 12.
Okay, so
Your turn.
I'm in Pennsylvania. We never really went to Pennsylvania, but like once every so many years, we're in Pennsylvania visiting my Uncle Carl, and it was like that whole side of the family got together, right? So it was me, my younger brother, and I only have one older stepbrother by a year, and we're all out back by ourselves, camping out in a tent. I can't believe they let us do that with no supervision that young. And we're all about making swords and stuff. And because they had this big bonfire, it was nothing but hot coals and a little flame at that point. My brother's like, we got a hammer. We're gonna like make our own swords out of this broken metal pieces. So like we're sticking it in the hot coals and we're banging it like we're some type of blacksmith. And my younger brother is like, I'm tired, I'm going to sleep. So he had just got into the tent, and me and my stepbrother were like, it was getting late, dude. It was probably like 2 a.m.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know, if you've ever been in Pennsylvania, you know the Pennsylvania night sky can be as clear as Hawaii water. You'll be seeing nothing but stars, and anything that's shooting across the sky, you can see it. So No clouds in the sky whatsoever. There was zero wind all night. Super hot. It wasn't very humid. It was starting to cool off, but there was no wind. All of a sudden, and when I say instantly, this wind picked up almost in a clockwise, in a counterclockwise direction. The wind was swirling for like some reason because the little flame that was about to go out in the fire lifted up because of the air that just like came out of nowhere. The flame got big, and I looked at my brother like, what the hell? It was almost as if somebody threw gasoline on the fire. That's how big the flame went. And so like I'm looking around because there was trees around us that hadn't moved in 24 hours. Like literally there was no wind. It was so stifling hot out. So all the trees and everything are starting to move, and we didn't know anything about aliens or UFOs at the time, but it was all of a sudden this like buzzing, loud, like a big jet engine was like getting closer and closer. So we both looked up at the same time, and I shit you not, it was like a ball of light, like just went boom, and it was gone. But when I tell you that my younger brother had just gotten the tent, the tent was shaking because of the wind. He got out of the tent. It was like, what's going on? We didn't know what to say. Like me and my brother were just looking at each other and then looking at my younger brother like, are you gonna tell him? Because I didn't know how to explain what had just happened, and he didn't know how to explain. And like we don't talk all the time. Like we barely talk. You know, I wish we talked more as my brother, but I'll tell you this. Every time we talk about that. Every single time. And we were like 10 and 11.
That totally beats my story.
Bro, I don't know what it was.
My story 100%. That stuff for me is like my biggest fear is like aliens and stuff. And when you start to, oh my God, I would die, bro. Like, oh
bro,
my God, top my story.
Knowing what I know now, I'm pretty sure I know what it was. Allegedly, I think it was a UFO. However, I don't know. I don't put anything. I don't take anything for granted. Especially these days, I don't really trust much. But what I will say is I don't put anything past their own government these days. So before I jump to any crazy conclusions of just going and saying it's a UFO, I'll go ahead and say that they could have easily been testing some type of aircraft in the area, and we just so happened to see it. You know, I don't know. What I do know is this: I absolutely love doing this episode. I'm so excited for some more. You got anything you want to say to your loyal fan base before we get out of here?
I love you all, first of all. The whole reason we do this stuff is for you guys. I love doing this for you. I love performing for you. So if you have ideas or suggestions, please give it. Also, don't forget to go to ACG and show love from my brother and the whole ACG family. And look up Lethal if she could put her information somewhere quickly in the chat, because she needs viewers so that she can start doing her thing too. So please give her love, show her love, get into Discord, join us in Discord. We're chatty AF. So we love to make new friends. We love people of all walks of life. Rexy!
Hey, yo, Rex!
Nice to see you, bro! Yeah, just please keep tuning in, like, and click the like and subscribe button so that you get all the content. Don't miss anything, because the month of October is going to be insane, and we are going to be pumping out tons of information that you are going to want to see. Entertainment, factual, learning, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah,
theory,
boy.
everything you could want, everything that you could want, you will get it from here. Yeah, Lethal just put up in the chat her YouTube, so please go in there, click it, like it, subscribe as well. Do it for ACG, for my bros. Just spread the love and come join us again.
You guys are amazing. Thank you so much. You guys, we love you all. And stay tuned, because this stuff is just starting to get hot. Let's go. Until next time, y'all. Peace. Bro, it's so good. So good.
That was so much fun. Probably one of my favorite episodes to date.
Agreed. It's only gonna get better because the content is just gonna get better. I feel like this was a good start out because of the other ones we're gonna be talking about. Like, there's gonna get better and better, dude.